Hey guys, it's your girl Alexi, and this is Red Carpet Fly Go-Getta podcast, where I interview people in the entertainment industry. I am here with Basileo. I've always wanted to get someone who's a director's perspective on a movie, so we're just going to hop right in there. How are you doing today?
I'm awesome. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Sorry about all the traffic on Hollywood. It was crazy.
All right. I mean, anytime, our pink friends want to do anything, they like to shut down the streets, so you give it to them.
Well, I'm glad you came out here because I really appreciate it. So let's just hop right into it. So Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, if for those of you guys who don't know, it's just about an a Hollywood star who's aging, and he is no longer as relevant as he used to be. And he is played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and his sidekick slash stunt double is played by Brad Pitt. Now, I loved the movie. I thought it was really great. I felt like it's an industry film, though. It's not like, a film that most people would like. What are your thoughts about it?
I understand why a lot of people love it based on what you said. It's an industry film and it touches on old Hollywood, which out here, a lot of the voters who vote and critique a lot of these films, they generally end up being older, predominantly white people, and they love movies about old Hollywood and that are very nostalgic and, remind them of an era and a time, and to them that was whimsical and amazing and what Hollywood they still want to, what they still want Hollywood to be. But from a viewing standpoint, I didn't like it. I didn't really get it.
What do you get? I don't, because I'm missing what you didn't get about the movie. Because I thought the movie is wonderful, being in Hollywood and just being, I didn't come from that time, but when I moved from New York to LA, that's the kind of California I had in my mind. Of it, it's like very beachy, very like, yes, very circa like 1970s. That's the kind of California I had in my head. So it was great to see that. And it was great to see different landmarks. Like, I have been to a lot of those places. So it was really great to be like, oh, I've been there. I know where that is,
Yeah, so you're getting sucked up in the nostalgia and all that, and that takes you away from just the movie itself. I just don't, from a directorial standpoint, masterful job. Post-production, masterful job. Production, masterful. But when it comes to just story, I didn't really understand like why this movie had to be made. There's nothing significant about this movie. If this movie were made by anyone other, well, not anyone, but were not made by Quentin Tarantino, no one would care.
Now, see, it's interesting that you say that, because like when I watch my movies, I try not to read any other reviews or anything about the movie, so it doesn't taint my critique of it. However, I was reading an article, and they were comparing like how the hippies and like the Manson, well, mainly the hippies, they were critiquing them to kind of like how people are today, like the words hippies with people who are progressives, and they were making that connection, like how America and how masculinity is looked at and looked at traditionally, and how the hippies kind of bucked that system, and how you can extrapolate that to today, like how we have progressive people and like people like the Squad, and how people are trying to demonize that. So, I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's a stretch?
I think people work really hard to intellectualize film.
Okay.
And it's really not that. Like, let's just take the film for what it is. Let's not bring all these other things into the film that really haven't. That's not what the film was about. Yes, there were some hippies in the film. Yes, I guess there were hippies in the whole Manson murder thing, and he created some characters, but at the end of the day, it's just there are many pointless things in that film that just didn't have to happen. Like Margot Robbie's character, I feel like she got robbed. She is an exceptional actress. I felt like I could count how many lines she had. Her lines were not significant. Her role was not significant. Anyone could have played that role, and that I felt like doing this film, outside of it being Tarantino and alongside DiCaprio and Pitt, really just cheapened her in my eyes. If I'm an executive at a production company, I'm like, yeah, I would have told her if I'm her agent, I'm like, it's like opportunity unless you're gonna do another Tarantino film, but more than anything, like, you didn't need to do that film. But then again, she begged to do that film, so that's a whole different subject whatsoever. And then the film, I didn't like its portrayal of Bruce Lee, and I thought it was kind of racist.
Well, okay, so a few things I want to go back to with Margot Robbie. You're absolutely correct because that was my kind of critique too. I didn't understand the point of her being in there if she wasn't going to be killed. Like I just didn't. I didn't understand.
Zero significance in the film.
Right, exactly, because she ends up living. So why were you in there? As far as Bruce Lee's part, now that was one of my favorite parts with Bruce Lee fighting Brad Pitt. I liked it because I just thought that was just great, to pick up. He was such an icon, and to incorporate in the movie. I thought it was good. But it's funny that you said it was racist. I do agree that it was racist, but I felt like maybe they were doing that because of the time frame. It is a period piece in the 70s, so they weren't politically correct then, So you think that it was not needed at all? Or how would you have had that part shot? Because in the 70s, yeah, I think they were a little bit racist, Not racist. Yeah, maybe racist. Yeah.
I mean, it's cool if they were racist in the 70s, but we're living today, and you don't have to incorporate those pieces in your film. Like the part where he's like, oh, don't cry in front. Brad Pitt tells Leonardo DiCaprio's character, don't cry in front of the Mexicans.
Yeah.
I was like, what was the significance of that line? There was no point in saying that. There was no point in writing that, essentially, as Tarantino, the writer. Like, why did you have to write that? I'd like to know why he had to put that in there in particular. And then the whole caricature of Bruce Lee, I agree with you. It's awesome that he was in the film. I was excited when I saw him. I was like, oh, damn, Bruce Lee. Like, I've never seen Bruce Lee in a non-Bruce Lee film. But the way they characterized Bruce Lee, that wasn't Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee wouldn't have acted like that. Bruce Lee wouldn't have spoken like that based on what I know of Bruce Lee. And Bruce Lee wouldn't have been handled like that. I'm sorry. The way he was handled in the film by Brad Pitt, that would have never happened. So I just didn't like the portrayal they used of Bruce Lee because that honestly is not a good representation of Bruce Lee's legacy. And Bruce Lee has a very strong legacy out here, very strong philosophical legacy on top of just him as a man and a character. So the portrayal of him, to me, didn't live up to that, and it cheapened that. It's like, so to me, it's just, why did you have to do that?
So a few points, because you make so many good points as you're making your argument. The thing is, okay, when he did make the comment, don't cry in front of the Mexicans, I thought why that was in there is because they are setting up to let the audience know what kinds of man Leonardo DiCaprio is. His character. His character is this quintessential white Hollywood macho man, and has all these thoughts of like Americanism. So with that, he didn't say it. His sidekick said it. That's true. Brad Pitt said it. But I think it echoes to how are we to perceive this character, that he is very much the, red, white, and blue, all-American man. So that's why I felt like those little things were put into that, because he is not what you would traditionally consider as open or as very accepting of other races. And this is the lens that I was looking at him through. I guess my other thing that I had with the movie that, because I liked it, and this is why I like talking to other people, especially like, that are in the industry, because we see different things. What stuck out to me was this obsession with Manson culture, and just like to me, I'm not a Manson type of person, or interested in that kind of stuff. But there is an obsession in our culture with the Manson family, and for this movie, I didn't quite see. I felt like kind of it was like an ode to that, because it kind of was like weaved in throughout the whole movie. How what?
How is it weaved in? Because I don't know much about. I didn't even know there was a Manson family. I just know the person Manson. I know I kind of know what he did. And I know he was in prison. However, I don't know much. The film didn't teach me anything about him whatsoever.
Right. Okay, and that's another thing because I feel like to watch this movie, you have to know, and this is why I say it's an industry film, because you have to know about old Hollywood. You have to know about like LA and SoCal culture and also Hollywood legend and lore. So, and when I say Hollywood legend and lore, is like you have to know like about the Black Dahlias and about like the Manson family and all the stuff that happens that has happened in the history of Hollywood. So, like with the Manson family, they were considered hippies, although hippies did not consider the Manson family hippies at all. But they were just like it was a cult, and he recruited all these mostly women to. They basically followed him and carried out his like demonic and crazy plots or whatever. And Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski, that they just happened to be victims of the Manson family. They weren't like key targets, you know. However, I feel like if you didn't know that history, you would have missed it in the movie. And I feel like this movie basically was an ode to that because in almost every scene there was a reference to the Manson family, you know, and to that. I feel like that.
Where?
Okay, like in the beginning, right, when we first see when Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio are driving home, and that the girls are walking across the street.
Okay, I mean,
those are
yeah, I saw that.
okay. And then the girl, she's always like hitchhiking up and down Sunset Boulevard. Again, that part didn't need to be in there, but it is because they're part of the Manson family. I feel like this is a whole like Manson movie, and I felt like people feel the same way how I felt because really like you could have had the same movie and not had that in there, but it's like. And it has been like I think the 50th anniversary of the Manson murders, so it's a weird obsession that people have with this, and I don't know.
I think the movie is just leveraging off like that whole lore and the whole 50th anniversary thing because a bunch of people didn't die in this movie. There was no talk of death or something going on in Hollywood. There's literally one scene or a couple scenes where people die, and you didn't even like you could have say we lived in another universe where Manson didn't exist. Mm-hmm. You could have that same exact film and not make if someone from China or someone from you know Middle America could watch this film, someone like me could watch this film, didn't know anything about Manson, I would walk away thinking, okay, I would have never known that had anything to do with Manson just by watching that film alone.
But see, that's what I'm saying, because this you just proved my point even further that this is a Manson movie, because the thing is that he incorporated so much about that. I feel like all the other stuff about Leonardo DiCaprio and being like a fading star, that was like a subplot to what this family was doing or whatever, because they were so incorporated into it.
But they weren't doing anything in the film.
No, they weren't doing anything in the film until the very end. Yeah. But
and then Roman Polanski and Roman Polanski at the end, he wasn't there.
Right.
And then Sharon Tate, nothing happened to her. It's like they were victims, so you literally just changed your own history.
Yeah, he did. He did change it. Okay, so other than that, you know, another thing that I wanted to say, picking up on the whole Hollywood legend and lore thing, is Brad Pitt's, you know, everyone is like, they stay away from him because they think he's murdered his wife. And they go to a part in the movie where they're like on the boat. Now there is this Hollywood scandal for a long time ago with Christopher Walken. And Christopher Walken and this, I don't know who the director was, and his wife, there was like where she got thrown off the boat or she was murdered or something like that. I felt like that was also a reference to that, like kind of like that's how Brad Pitt killed his wife possibly. I feel like if you didn't know that, you wouldn't get that part. You know what I'm saying? Which again is why I said you need to know a little bit about Hollywood legend and lore, because these little references are dropped throughout the movie.
That part, I actually like that part. I like that subplot. I like that storyline a lot. I like how they went back and showed that visual because it resonated with me. And to me, it's like a film really needs to be able to stand on its own too, without all the reference points that I need to know this, I need to know that. This is not a comic book. This is not, like if the film is good, the film is good. And you as a filmmaker, you shouldn't be, your job is to make sure that everyone understands, everyone gets it. And even if they don't know the reference points you're touching to, at least they can understand what you're trying to do and it resonates with them. That piece resonated with me. And I will say the acting by Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio and Al Pacino, spot on.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Spot on.
That's the reason why they get paid they get paid what they get paid, because I know the last time we talked and you were talking about how a good movie is a good movie to you is when you stop looking for the problems and you get sucked into the story. And I feel the same as far as with the acting. If I'm not looking, if I'm not noticing you acting and I'm like looking at you as the character, then you've done your job, And I felt like they did an amazing job. And I was like, it looks like this is effortless, Like they just did such a great job. So
I agree. I agree with you. They were masterful.
So if you could rate it, because I'm trying to start doing this little rating system on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 mic or 1 to 5 mics, what would you give Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Because this was like the movie to see. I wasn't going to go see this, but everybody from, I work in PR. People in my PR office were talking about it. Just so many people were talking about it. So I had to go see it. So on a scale of 1 mic to 5 mics, 1 being horrible, 5 mics being the best, what would you give it?
What am I rating it based on? Just the film overall? Am I rating the production?
Overall, and including your knowledge base and everything, what would you give it?
You know what I'd like to do? Not I'd like to do. I wish were available to me right now. I wish you were like categories, and then and then we could average them out.
Maybe Maybe next time, because I'm sure there's a movie we're gonna see, and we can talk about it. Okay. I'm gonna do my own review, of this, but maybe next time I'll do that. We'll have categories. But for now, what would you give it? How many mics?
3.5.
Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely. If someone asked me, "Oh, should I go see this film?" If they, I'd be like, "You're not missing anything." It's a "you're not missing anything" film if you don't see it.
You're absolutely right. Like I said, I agree with you. I would give it about 3.5 mics to 4 mics. I liked it because the cinematography was wonderful. Yes. I love the nostalgia.
Yes.
I liked that it was referencing stuff that I knew about Hollywood and it was going to places I knew in Hollywood. So I liked it. It's an industry film. I got it. So I would give it 3.5, 4, 2. But you're right. You're not missing anything. But
yeah, you're not missing anything by seeing. You're not missing anything by not seeing it. But like you said, directing, it was great. Cinematography, great. Sound design, great. Acting, great. The story, though, I just didn't like the story itself. I felt, and I literally was sitting in the theater just like, okay. And it wasn't until the last maybe 15 minutes, I perked up and I was like, okay, something's happening. And then it ended. I was like, this can't be the end. This can't be the end of the film. There has to be more. I literally stayed. And I generally do this anyway, but for the purpose I stayed, I watched all the credits. I'm like, something else has to happen.
Oh my gosh, I did the same thing.
This just can't be it. And then it was it. And then the screen went black, and I was still sitting there like, so that was underwhelming.
Okay, so there's another thing, and I'm going to wrap this up soon because I know I've taken up so much of your time already, and I really do appreciate you being here because I enjoy this stuff all the time. But so there was a thing that was brought up to me about watching it on 33 millimeter. Like, you had to watch this movie on film because it was just, that's like what you had to do. So I watched it on 33 millimeter film. I watched it over by the ArcLight. Okay. They had it on 33 millimeter. So, I mean, To me, I liked it because it was like an art piece. It's a time period piece, so it was cool. Did you watch it on digital? Like, what was it?
I watched it on digital. See, this is all that intellectualizing film that I was talking about earlier. People just try really hard to make this thing, to intellectualize it and make it grandiose and make it so scientific. When at the end of the day, yes, there's science involved, but tell me what medium of art does not involve science. It's still art. Regardless of how much science there is, it's still an art. And granted, it's subjective to emotions and preconceived notions and thoughts and many other things that have to do with the individual who's consuming it. So it's just funny to me when people try to bring this cloak of standardization, but they mask it in intellectual speak, and it's just funny.
Well, what is one thing that you think people could take away from this movie? I know you didn't like it. It's funny that we came to the same kind of rating for it, even though I liked it and you didn't really like it.
That's interesting.
What do you think people could take away from this movie, if anything?
There's only one Quentin Tarantino. Don't write or try to direct like Quentin Tarantino, because there's only one, and you will not do it well.
My takeaway from it, and what I think people should take away from the film, is that Hollywood is just like anything else. It's just like a microcosm of the world. You're going to have rising stars. You're going to be on top, and then there's points you're going to be on the bottom. And, you just got to ride that wave. And how you ride the wave determines the character of the person. So, that's what I feel like I took away from the movie. That, yes, you could be on top and you're great, but you're not just yesterday's trash if you're no longer the leading man. And I think that's inspirational to up and coming actors, because, hey, or even actors that are in the industry and now like the child stars that were hot and popping and now they're no longer popping. It's okay, because at the end, even though Sharon Tate didn't die, he had been wanting to try to get Leonardo DiCaprio's character had been wanting to get in to meet with Polanski, and he gets that opportunity. So he has a whole nother opportunity to reinvent himself.
I did like that part of the film. I like how that came together. That's why I was like, okay, he's walking up to the house. He's shaking hands. I was like, Roman's not there, but this is the beginning of something. And then the film ended. I was like, you're kidding. I was like, you're killing me, Smalls. The film can't end like that.
Well, I liked the film. I thought it was great. And
very un-American film.
Really?
Yeah, it's very un-American. The ending is very un-American.
Okay, I'll give you that. You're right. Because I feel like in America, we like to have a nice, clean, tight ending.
Yeah. And so now that I think about that, it's very like French New Wave in the way it ends. And I appreciate him for doing that, because that, you know what, let me just give the film a 4 rating now that I'm thinking about it, because hopefully this film can now allow more directors and more writers to create in a way that doesn't have this very mechanical feel and very mechanical steps and endings. And so we can expand as creatives and viewers and consumers of these products. Because as a filmmaker, that's something I struggle against. Just people who maybe look at my work and critique it. I don't always have the, sewed up, buttoned up ending. I like the French New Wave style of leaving the ending ambiguous, or not giving you what you feel you deserve, or not giving you closure. I'm like, that's really what life is. You don't always get closure.
Absolutely.
So why are we doing that in films? Like, that's stupid. So I will commend it for that.
Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you so much, Basileo, for coming out and doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I hope to have you next time. For those of you who want to be on Red Carpet Fly Go-Getta podcast, if you're a director, writer, actor, actress, dancer, like I said, stunt person, please, come out, hit me up. You can reach me at Red Carpet Fly.
Don't forget the comedians.
And the comedians, yes, please. And hit me up at Red Carpet Fly on Instagram, and we can go ahead and try to get you on the show. Again, thank you, Basileo, and until next time, always stay fly.
Always stay fly.